want to know the secret. They speak of holy mountain.
Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
9 immortal men live on top of the mountain.
Glad to be here.
They hold the secret to the conquest of death. You know you cannot escape death, but immortality can be obtained. We must unite our forces to assault the holy mountain and rob its wise men of their secret of immortality.
Today, we're really diving deep, embarking on this pretty extraordinary intellectual journey, an attempt to systematize, well, basically all knowledge. Mysticism, comparative religion.
Yeah, everything. Trying to fit it into one single, grand, unifying framework. It's ambitious, is putting it mildly.
Ambitious, right. And the source we're looking at is called Liber 777 Revised.
That's the one. And it's not just, a book in the usual sense. It bills itself as a book of correspondences, almost like a magical alphabet for understanding the universe.
A magical alphabet. Okay, let's unpack this. So our mission today is to explore how this whole complex system tries to, resolve confusion.
Exactly. Resolve confusion, bridge ideas that seem totally contradictory.
Things that just don't seem to fit together.
Right. And ultimately offer you, the listener, a unique lens, a way to see the underlying unity of everything.
Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, to being, truly well-informed by seeing connections you wouldn't normally see.
That's a good way to put it, seeing the hidden connections. And the fundamental structure for all this, it's the Kabbalistic tree of life.
Right, the tree of life. The source calls it the skeleton, right? The skeleton on which this body of truth is built.
Exactly, which really nails how crucial it is. It's the foundation.
That analogy really gives you a sense of it.
Yeah.
So what are the bones then? What makes up this skeleton?
Okay, so the tree of life isn't just a diagram you hang on the wall. It's meant to be a symbolic blueprint of, existence itself.
Charting the journey from the divine down to us, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. It's built on 10 main principles, the Sephiroth. Think of them as cosmic emanations or archetypes, numbered 0 to 10.
Okay, 10 Sephiroth.
And these are linked by 22 paths. And these paths line up with the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, numbered 11 to 32.
So it's like a map, a geometric map showing how everything connects.
Precisely. And the real ambition, like you said, comes clear when you see the author's intent to systematize alike the data of mysticism and the results of comparative religion.
Which sounds kind of impossible. How do you take beliefs from all over the world that seem so different and find a common thread?
Well, the core idea, the premise, is that beneath all the cultural layers, the different languages and names, there's a shared principle.
Okay.
The text makes this a pretty surprising claim. It says, when a Japanese thinks of Hachiman and a boar of the Lord of Hosts, they are not two thoughts, but one.
Wow. Okay, so the name is different, the cultural context is different, but the underlying thing they're thinking about is the same.
That's the idea. It's about the fundamental force or archetype, not just the label we slap on it, the universal reality underneath.
And that feeds right into this critique of human sectarianism, doesn't it? The book says this problem isn't lack of sympathy in thought.
No, it's specifically lack of sympathy in speech. It's about how fuzzy language, imprecise words create these walls between people and ideas.
That makes sense. Words can definitely get in the way.
Absolutely. The text gives this example of Mrs. Eddy, the founder of Christian Science. It says she renamed what most people call God as mind. Okay.
But then she made statements about mind that were only really true of the traditional concept of God. And this apparently just created huge confusion.
Ah, I see. So using the same word but meaning different things, or using different words for the same thing, it trips us up.
Exactly. And part of our goal in this deep dive is to sort of highlight those linguistic traps and show how a system like this aims for precision to bridge those gaps.
So these Sephiroth, the 10 building blocks, can you give us a taste? What do a few of them actually represent?
Sure. Let's start right at the top. Number 1, Kether. It means the crowned, also called the small point, the hidden wonder.
The very beginning.
The absolute beginning. Ultimate unity, the origin point of everything. Pure, unmanifest potential before anything is.
Okay, so Kether is that ultimate oneness, the potential. What comes next?
Next, from Kether emerges Chokmatu, which means wisdom. But it's not just book smarts. It's the first, flash of creative energy, raw potential starting to move.
Like the spark itself. The spark itself, yeah. Unfiltered, dynamic energy before it really takes shape.
And its counterpart, the next step.
That would be Bina 3, meaning understanding. Now, Bina is often called the dark, sterile mother or the bright, pregnant mother. Very evocative.
That paradoxical.
It is. If chakma is the raw spark, bina is what gives it structure, the receptive principle, the cosmic womb, maybe. She takes that energy and starts to shape it.
Ah, okay. The form giver, often linked to the Great Sea, or Saturn, you said. Symbols of boundaries, structure.
Exactly. Receptivity and form. That interplay between chokma and bina, energy and structure, is fundamental.
That's fascinating. What about something more central, more related to, say, human experience?
Good point. For that, we look at Tifereth 6. Its name means beauty, and this one is really central to the whole system.
The heart of the tree, maybe?
Absolutely. It's often called the king or the sun. It represents harmony, balance, consciousness, and importantly, the perfected human will. It's where the divine and the human really connect and find equilibrium.
Okay. Tifereth as the point of balance. And then where does it all end up? The final stage.
That's Malkuth 10, the kingdom. This is the final manifestation, sometimes called the daughter.
So our world, the physical reality.
Exactly. Our physical world, the realm of the four elements as we experience them, our sensory reality is where all those higher emanations become concrete, where the universe kind of experiences itself.
Wow. Okay, so it really does sound like this massive indexing system. A cosmic Wikipedia mapping everything.
That's a great way to think about it. It really is. It doesn't just stop at abstract ideas. It maps gods, goddesses, animals, plants, stones, even magical tools, all onto this tree of life structure.
A huge tapestry of connections.
A vast tapestry of attributions, yeah. Showing how all these seemingly random things are, according to the system, fundamentally linked.
Okay, give us some examples. I'm curious about those surprising connections. How does it actually link things we'd never put together?
Well, the breadth is just incredible. Take the Egyptian goddess Isis. The system doesn't just label her mother goddess.
Right.
It shows her embodying motherhood, yes, but also the moon, the great goddess Earth, nature itself, even the cosmic egg.
Wow, so many different aspects.
All sorts. Wisdom, the physical moon, the virgin, the city builder, Osiris's wife, Horus's mother, spirit of corn, water goddess. It goes on and on.
So what's the point of listing all that?
It demonstrates how a single underlying archetype, maybe the cosmic feminine principle here, manifests through countless cultural lenses, different times, different places. It's showing the unity beneath the masks.
And it's not just one deity having many roles, but how our idea of a deity can change over time. The system tracks that too.
It does, yeah. Think about Jehovah. The text traces how that conception shifts from the testy senior of Genesis to the lawgiver in Leviticus, then maybe a more physical fertility god, and finally a more spiritual conception when, earthly hopes faded for the Israelites.
So it tracks the evolution of the idea.
Exactly, or Satan. In Job, he's just the attorney general, basically, the prosecutor.
That's a job.
Right. But over time, he accumulates all the negativity associated with that role, becomes the slanderer, the adversary, the embodiment of evil. The system notes these shifts in perception.
Yeah, that's a powerful lens for religious history, too.
Yeah.
Okay, what about those animal links? You mentioned some really specific ones.
Oh, yeah, some are quite specific. The beetle, the scarab, links to Pisces via the tarot's moon card. It symbolizes transformation, resurrection, Kephra, rolling the sun out of darkness.
Okay.
The camel connects to the high priestess card through the Hebrew letter Gimel, representing perhaps a journey across the abyss or carrying knowledge.
Interesting.
The spider is linked to Tifereth, the center, because it sits in the center of her web, right? Mirroring Tifereth's position.
Oh, that's a neat visual connection.
And even obscure things like the iynx, this bird used in Greek love spells, it shows up in the Chaldean oracles as a ministering power. Everything gets a place.
It's incredibly detailed, and this extends to objects, too, making them magical weapons.
Yes, exactly. Everyday items or symbols gain these deeper meanings. The swastika, before its horrific 20th century association, symbolized whirling energy, the start of magical force.
A dynamic symbol.
Very dynamic. The lingam, obviously linked to creative energy, the generative force. And the winged egg is described as spiritualized phallic energy, the source of creation, a potent symbol of unified potential.
So at the end of the day, it all circles back to this core idea. Despite all the differences we see on the surface, these symbols are all just one phenomenal manifestation of the ultimate principle.
That's the heart of it, finding the unity.
But finding that unity isn't easy, especially with language. You mentioned the Euroclydon of misunderstanding.
Yes, a great phrase. A storm of confusion caused by language itself. The source points out how one word, like soul, can have scores of different senses.
Oh, definitely. Even experts argue about what soul means.
Right, and this system actually tries to clarify that. It breaks down the soul into different levels, you could say.
Oh, how so?
Well, it distinguishes the Atman, almost the absolute itself, impersonal. Then Neshama, the higher mind, understanding, Ruach, the rational intellect, the ego maybe, and Nefesh, the animal soul, tied to our senses and instincts.
So soul isn't just one thing, it's like a spectrum.
Exactly, which helps explain why the word is so confusing. People are often talking about different levels without realizing it.
That makes a lot of sense. So what about these sacred alphabets, like Hebrew? They use letters and numbers. But the source says they're both arbitrary and meaningful. That sounds contradictory.
It does feel like a paradox, doesn't it? The idea is that the link between a specific sound and a specific number might be arbitrary, just convention.
Okay.
But the shapes of the letters, they're assigned numerical values, the traditional names and meanings, those do convey a real and important relation.
Can you give an example?
Sure. The Hebrew letter teth, its shape is said to resemble a serpent. That's not arbitrary, it's visual. And that visual link connects it to the zodiac sign Leo, ruled by the sun. So the letter itself becomes a symbolic nexus.
Ah, I see. The symbol carries the meaning, even if the sound number link was arbitrary initially.
Precisely. Now this brings us to something really mind-bending. A quote from the source. Every number is infinite. There is no difference.
Okay, wait. Every number is infinite, but there's no difference between them. How does that work? This seems to break math.
Yeah, it's not about calculation here, it's philosophy. It's a profound statement with like two sides. First, every number is a thing in itself.
Unique.
Unique. It has an infinite number of properties peculiar to itself. It's like a unique soul, an absolute necessary part of existence. One is not two, two is not three.
Okay, I get that part. They're distinct, but then there is no difference. How do you square that?
This is the really tricky part. It suggests that the differences we perceive are, in a way, illusions, or maybe arbitrary conditions we impose so our minds can grasp things.
Illusions.
The argument goes, if each number is absolute, a complete expression of the totality of the universe in its own way.
Then each one is the whole universe.
In a sense, yes. And how can there be a fundamental difference between one infinite absolute totality and another infinite absolute totality? It's like looking at a statue from different angles, it looks different, but it's still the same statue.
So the profound insight is, don't get stuck on the surface differences. Look for the underlying absolute reality they all point to.
That's exactly it. Look beyond the categories, the labels, the apparent contradictions, and find that shared absolute essence. It's a call to perceive unity.
That's a lot to chew on. And this perspective, it ties into how we view scientific truth too, right?
It does. The text is pretty blunt. Mathematical and physical sciences are in no sense concerned with absolute truth.
Ooh, controversial maybe.
Perhaps, but the point is they deal with the relations between observed phenomena and the observer. It's about relationships, not absolutes.
Can you give an example from the text?
Yeah, it uses the acceleration of falling bodies.
Yeah.
We think of g as a constant, right? But it's not. It varies depending on where you are on Earth, even if you're near a big mountain.
Right, local gravity changes slightly.
Exactly. Or a thermometer. Its scale depends on the boiling point of water, but that changes with air pressure. So our scientific facts are relative to our assumptions, our instruments, our location.
They describe relationships within a chosen framework, not some ultimate, unchanging truth with a capital T.
Precisely. It really reinforces that idea of looking beyond apparent fixed points to the underlying relativity and unity.
Okay, sticking with things that might cause debate. This system isn't afraid of controversy.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about the Hay-Sadi switcheroo.
Ah, yes, the Hay-Sadi reversal. This is a big deal in some Kabbalistic circles, especially those following the Golden Dawn tradition.
The Golden Dawn, right, the famous magical order.
Exactly. So traditionally, the tarot trump, the emperor, which is number 4, is associated with the Hebrew letter Hay. And the star, trump is 7th, is linked to the letter Tzadi.
Okay, standard stuff.
But this text, Liber 777, following a specific interpretation of another text called Liber AL the Legis, it swaps them.
Swaps them. Emperor becomes star, star becomes emperor, in terms of the letter paths.
In terms of their letter attributions, yes. The emperor, Hay, gets linked to Tzadi, usually star's letter, and the star, Tzadi, gets linked to Hay, usually emperor's letter. Visually on the tree diagram, it changes which paths they represent.
Why? Why mess with a long-standing system like that?
According to the commentary in the source, it was done to achieve a system that felt sublimely, perfectly, flawlessly symmetrical, to correct what the author perceived as an error in the older Golden Dawn attributions.
Based on a line in Liber AL that says something like, Sadi is not the star?
Exactly. All these old letters of my book are right. But Sadi is not the star. It's a prime example of the system being seen as dynamic, something to be refined for greater internal consistency.
Fascinating. Okay, let's also quickly clarify the elements. We mentioned them with Malkuth. How does this system view the 5 elements?
Right. So you have the standard 4, air, water, fire, earth, but they often use the Hebrew names. Ruach for air, Maim for water, Ash for fire, Aretz for earth.
Standard enough, but there are 5.
Yes, there's a 5th, spirit, or ath in Hebrew. But spirit isn't just another element alongside the others. It's seen as the underlying essence, the alpha and omega, that interpenetrates and unifies the other 4. It's their source and substance.
So it's in all of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when the text talks about element down in Malkuth, the physical realm,
Yes.
it clarifies that it means the composition of nefesh and sensible matter. It's specifically about how those elements manifest in the tangible world linked with that animal soul level.
Okay, got it. Now, what about the flip side, the dark side? Qliphoth.
Ah, the Qliphoth. Yes, the orders of Qliphoth are essentially the shadows, the unbalanced or demonic counterparts to the Sephiroth.
The husks or shells.
That's one translation, yeah. They represent the distortion or the excess of each principle. What happens when that divine energy isn't balanced or integrated properly? Chaos, basically.
And their names reflect this.
Often, yes. Their titles tend to suggest the vice characteristic of the Sephira they oppose. The example given is for Kether, which is unity.
Right, the ultimate one.
Its Qliphothic counterpart is Thomiel, meaning twins of God. They explicitly deny Kether's unity by having 2 contending heads. It represents duality, conflict, schism, the opposite of that primary oneness.
So each Sephira has its corresponding distortion or shadow.
That's the concept. It maps out the negative possibilities.
There are 7 deadly sins: gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, pride, lust, and envy. 7.
And finally, briefly, how do things like magical formulae fit into this magical alphabet? Words like abrahadabra.
Those formulae, like abrahadabra or IAO, are seen as deeply connected to the whole system, to the magical weapons, to the structure of the tree.
They aren't just random sounds.
Not at all, according to this view. They are considered potent, active expressions of cosmic patterns, like vibrational keys, tools to influence reality by resonating with these fundamental principles laid out in the tree.
So the alphabet includes sounds and words, too, as active forces.
Exactly. It's meant to be a truly comprehensive language for describing and interacting with reality.
Okay. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground here. So, stepping back, what's the big takeaway for us, for you, the listener? What does this system offer beyond just, a really complex intellectual puzzle?
Well, I think this deep dive into Liber 777 shows how such a system, whether you buy into all its specifics or not, offers a framework, an unsectarian, flexible, yet precise way to organize complex ideas.
Unsectarian is key, right? Trying to get beyond labels.
Definitely. And interpreting symbols across all sorts of different traditions, it's presented as an instrument for interpreting symbols whose meaning has become obscure, forgotten, or misunderstood. It's like a decoder ring for symbolism.
A way to cut through the noise and find common language.
Yeah, or at least a common structure to compare different languages.
So it encourages us, really, to look at the world, at different beliefs, maybe even ourselves in a different way.
Absolutely. It invites you to think about how this kind of systematic approach could deepen your own understanding. How you could, as the text suggests, increase your vocabulary of thoughts and facts through organizing and correlating them.
Seeing the connections, the bigger patterns.
Exactly. Organizing your own knowledge, seeing how different pieces fit together.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. If, as this deep dive suggests, every number is infinite, and fundamentally there is no difference between these absolute points, what might it mean for you to apply that perspective? To look at seemingly contradictory ideas or maybe conflicting experiences in your own life and try to see past the surface opposition.
To grasp maybe a hidden unity or a shared core beneath them.
Exactly. Moving beyond those surface appearances, what stands out to you from all this? Something to mull over.
Definitely something to think about.